everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Priscillia and I'm happy to have you here. So a couple of weeks ago, I had interesting conversations with two of my friends where they shared their stories, their journey to marriage basically. And guess what? They got to share the untold stories, like the untold part of their journey to marriage. So if you haven't yet checked those stories, please do well to check them out on the channel. But today I want to talk a bit about a very important aspect of those stories that they shared: friendship. So I was just thinking about everything that they shared and about how both of them mentioned how at some point they shared, whatever was bothering them, or how somehow I was involved. Now I'm just using this as a case study, and just because I'm actually led to share this, not just to make this like a general case, but I believe that this is something that we should talk about: the importance of friendship when it comes to choosing a life partner, especially for those of you who want to marry in the will of God. So let's talk about it, shall we? So if you watched Dorcas's story, when we were having a conversation, I mentioned how at some point I mentioned the husband's name, the husband to be. How do we put it? But I just mentioned it and she was like, how did you know? And then in Ruth's story as well, even before she actually got to open up, I don't know if she remembers that part because we didn't highlight that part in the story, in the conversation that we had. But there was a day where I also just knew that brother, at a time when we were talking, was going to be the one. And so we had a conversation around it. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that today. But then you see how all of this played out and how there was this friend somewhere who, played a role somehow, right? So today I want to highlight the fact that even though the decision as to who you are going to get married to is a very personal one, you are going to make the choice. Your friends are going to influence you one way or the other, and mostly indirectly. And so it's very important that you are very careful the kind of people that you have around you, the kind of friends that you keep, if your desire is to marry in the will of God. For instance, if your desire is to marry in the will of God, you can't have friends who are always highlighting how you should focus on the physical appearance rather than just allowing the Lord to lead you. When I talk about your friends influencing you, I'm not even talking about like when you get to that part where you're like, I want to choose, or like I'm ready, who is it going to be? Is it Samuel or is it Kojo? Not even that part. But in your interactions, in your conversations, when it comes to your convictions, when it comes to your value systems, when it comes to basically everything in between, they influence your thoughts, they influence you one way or the other. And so it's important that you watch it, because when it's going to get to that time when you are ready to choose, whatever it is that has been stored in there is going to resurface. So this is very important. Secondly, I want to talk about spiritual sensitivity. Are your friends spiritually sensitive? This is very important. When I told Dorcas, listen, I mentioned the name of the brother and I was like, is he not this brother? And she went like, how did you know? I was just being spiritually sensitive. I just knew within my spirit that this was going to be the brother. And when even it comes to that, you need to be wise. You need to apply wisdom as to when you are going to mention it, how you are going to mention it, for various reasons, because you don't just want to indirectly, you just don't want to, you really want to be careful how you go about it for various reasons, right? But even in Ruth's case as well, me just sensing it in my spirit and knowing, when you have friends who are spiritually sensitive, it helps in that journey versus having friends who are just carnally minded, because all they are going to do is take your mind back to the carnal aspect of it. Those parts, when I say carnal aspect, I'm talking about using some metrics to inform your choice and really majoring on the minor things, if you understand what I mean. That does not mean that the physical attributes or those other things that you look at physically are not important, but I'm talking about majoring in the minor things. So you want to have friends who are spiritually sensitive, so sensitive that even when maybe you're about to make a mistake, somehow they will just allow the Holy Spirit to lead them to say something to you that is going to bring you back to yourself, or that is going to bring you back to the right path. But if it's the opposite, even when you're on the right path, they are going to say things that will rather bring you back to the wrong path. You understand what I mean? Another thing that I want to say is that it doesn't have to be similar to their stories where I knew and maybe mentioned it somehow or anything like that. Like your friend does not necessarily have to know who God is leading you to. God doesn't have to play out the same way. Do you understand? But somehow there has to be spiritual sensitivity so that, because somehow I believe that your friends will sort of have some influence on you. So like you want to have friends who are spiritual, you want to have friends who have the same convictions when it comes to choosing a life partner. Because let's take another example. We are all human beings. I mean, you could be in a situation where you kind of are confused, or you are down, you are battling with something, you are battling with a leading or whatever it is, and you need to talk to someone. So at that point, when you go and talk to your friends, are they people who are going to help you draw closer to God and help you really make a sound decision, or there are people who are going to push you down further to like being confused? So this is very important. Also, are there people who are going to pray alongside with you? This is very important, because I want my friend to marry right. I want my friend to marry in the will of God. If my friend does not even believe in marrying in the will of God, chances are that she's not even going to pray about it. She's not going to pray about it, or she's not going to support me the way that I want to be supported. She's probably just going to tackle it in a different way and all of that. So this is very important as well. You have to understand that whatever you feed yourself, the conversations that you have around that topic, they are getting inside. So when it comes to that time when you have to make a decision, those things are going to resurface and they are going to influence your decisions. For some of you, those things are going to make it harder for you to choose, because you're going to keep hearing those voices telling you to focus on certain aspects and things like that. So it's important that you have friends with whom you're having healthy conversations, spiritually inclined conversations, to help you in this process. I also want to say that for some of you, the reason you may have been delayed or why it's taking too long is because you have friends around you who are not helping you when it comes to this particular area. Like, you guys do not talk about getting married in the light of the scriptures. You guys talk about getting married in the flesh. That's what I'm trying to say. And so because of that, everything within you does not align with marrying in the will of God. So it's not just going to happen. And if you've read my book, Understanding God's Will for My Life, one of the things that I talk about is the fact that when you talk about getting married in the will of God, it's not just about prayer. Contrary to what a lot of people believe, because we usually just hammer on the fact that yes, you have to pray and let God lead you. It's not just prayer. It doesn't take prayer alone. So if you are with your everything, your conversations, your thought, everything, your mind does not align with I want to marry in the will of God, your actions are not going to sync. So there's something somewhere at the back, somewhere that says, oh, I want to marry in the will of God, maybe because you've heard that being said and everything, but your actions tell otherwise. The friends that you keep, you guys talk about it differently, and nothing basically aligns with it. So it's not just going to happen for you. And I believe that this is a word for someone. Check your circle of friends, and let's not even really talk about that from the perspective of change your friends and everything, but maybe look at you, because your friends are a reflection of who you are. And so I just really wanted to share this today with you guys. I hope it blesses you. Your friends play an important role when it comes to choosing a life partner. If your desire is to marry in the will of God, you want to have friends who believe the same thing, and friends who also have similar convictions, so that they can stand together. They can also be praying alongside. And because I believe that somehow they are going to influence you, the influence better be good. So thank you so much for watching. What are your thoughts? What do you think about friendship and choosing a life partner? Please share in the comment section. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Check out my social media platforms. Feel free to share your questions. And if you haven't yet gotten a copy of my book, Understanding God's Will for My Life, and you really want to understand what it means to marry in the will of God and how to allow the Lord to lead you when it comes to choosing a life partner, that book is the book That is a book you need to do your hands on to really give you clarity and break down this concept of the will of God in a way that you probably haven't heard before. It's going to give you a lot of clarity. So check the description box to get yourself a copy. And I'm going to talk to you guys next time. Take care of yourselves. If you haven't yet subscribed, please make sure you click on that subscribe button. Bye for now.